Hey, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Stephanie, and this is the Chaos Chronicles.
Life's messy, weird, and totally unpredictable.
And we are here to talk about all of it. No filters, no fake perfect lives, just pure, unhinged, glorious chaos.
So grab a drink.
And let's dive right in.
Sure. Let's do this.
All right, episode 3. So the first 2 episodes were icebreakers.
Kind of fun. But
Laid back.
yeah.
Now you're going to get to know the real us. I'm just kidding. That was the real us.
I was like, episode 1 was very much the real us.
Because we just winged it the whole time. All right, go for it. What are we talking about today?
Well, today's topic is a little bit more on the serious side. So, as ER nurses, one thing we encounter a lot is like compassion fatigue and burnout. And I think it's kind of an important topic to discuss because it doesn't only happen, just in the ER, in the medical field in general. I mean, you can feel this in any form of life. And I know with everything that I've had going on lately, it's definitely become easier for me to become more compassion fatigued. And I texted you last night. I'm definitely feeling compassion fatigue. So I think it's important to talk about the differences of those and kind of just, remind other people that that does happen and it's part of life and we all suffer from it and kind of go from there.
It's not fun. That's for dang sure. Okay, so we're going to talk about, basically, that's going to be the main point today, but also the 3 main topics that kind of, I guess, are huge issues in the nursing community if you're a bedside nurse, because let's face it, I mean, there are some nurses that have it made, okay? And we don't work in aesthetics, so that is not us.
No, we picked wrong there because then we would have had a Botox friend.
I know, right?
We would have been our Botox friends.
We would have been our own Botox friends.
So
maybe that's actually probably a pretty good idea. All right, let's go back to the compassion fatigue and burnout, because one can lead to the other and the other leads to the other. All right. So what is the difference, though, between being tired versus being truly, burnt out? Let me ask you this. Do you actually feel burnt out from working?
I don't feel burnt out. Not right now, at least. I'm not burnt out because I do enjoy most days my job. And I feel like that's any job, no matter what line of work you're in.
It's called being raised with work ethic, a decent work ethic.
There you go, mumbling again.
I know. I'm sorry. At least I'm mumbling into the computer. I'm not raw dogging it today.
I don't feel burnt out. I feel like that's just that's when you need to leave, take a break, do a big, not necessarily a big change, but do something. I'm just feeling a lack of compassion. I feel like I have given all of my emotional availability, and there's just reached a point where I am tired of being compassionate.
Yeah. I mean, that's
what
fair.
else to word it?
Well, I mean, I guess a lot of it too is the fact that it's not even tired of being compassionate. It's trying to be compassionate to things that we should. Let's face it, we coddle a lot of people in the ER.
Yes.
There's a lot of, I have the sniffles. I think the top 2 complaints that we get are they have a fever that have not medicated because they had a fever that started an hour ago.
And they want us to see the fever.
Right now.
I don't want to see your fever.
No, I don't. Please, for the love of all things
That's
holy,
why
medicate yourself.
Yeah, we're very lucky to live in a country where we have access to
Right.
Tylenol and Motrin and modern medicine.
I think the other
So
issue that we have is chronic injuries that they've already been seen by primary cares. They've already been seen by specialists, but they just want a different answer.
And I'm just an emergency room nurse.
We
I
just
only
work
work
here.
for emergency stuff. I can't help your chronic issues. But no, one thing I got a lot of the past couple of days, especially it was a long weekend and I worked every day.
On a holiday weekend, why would you do that?
Because I'm leaving town.
That's right, Brazil.
Yes. But one thing I got a lot of was, I have an appointment tomorrow. Or, my appointment is on Wednesday. Or, it's a day or 2 away. Nothing has changed on my symptoms. I've waited 3 months for this appointment, but I don't want to wait anymore. I was like, well, I want to help you. I would love to be able to help you. I want to be there for you. But also, my job is to make sure that nothing emergent is going on, that you're not going to die of anything, and then give you the appropriate follow-ups. And sometimes it takes time. And unfortunately, I feel like people are very unhappy about that answer. And then, we have to be extra
compassionate.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we have somebody who's in another room who's coding, and we should be compassionate towards them and their families, and we can't because we're being pulled out of a room because somebody's wants a warm blanket.
It always comes
funny?
back to that story.
I know, right? But you know what's weird though? Like as we were talking about this topic last night, or you brought it to my attention to bring it up, I never realized when we were talking about the hot blankets and the turkey sandwiches and stuff, how much time we spend doing that extra stuff for patients instead of actually taking care of patients and their medical needs like we should be. But I also didn't realize like how much of our plate Tommy takes off of our plate when he goes to grab that patient a blanket, because while he's doing that, I can go do something else and medicate. And I never actually sat there and thought about it. I was like, that's one less blanket I have to give out, because Tommy, by the way, is our director. And
he's amazing. We love him.
Amazing. When we talk about management and crappiness, it's not him. Okay. Yes. I promise it will not be him.
He's the reason we have stayed where we are for as long as we have.
Facts. Him and his little southern accent that I can't say no to. Damn him. Gets me every time.
Yes.
But yeah, I never thought about that. Like I was like, you know what? That one time that Tommy gave that patient that blanket and I was able to go medicate somebody else. Or that other time where, he just answered the phone or he sent something off. He goes, here, let me grab this. You go do that and I can send this off. Like, it's those little tiny things that kind of help. But at the end of the day, like you said, the extra attention to things that we really
and we get it.
The
ER is cold. We understand that.
We do that so you don't come in. No,
that is not
true. I'm kidding.
It is, but we get those aspects, and we understand. We want to make you as comfortable as possible. But when you're doing that for 60, 70 patients in a shift, and everybody wants it all at the same time, and there's no, what's the word? What's the phrase I'm looking for?
Break?
No. Well, yes, there's no break. Lunch breaks are rarely a thing on our shift because of how busy our section is.
Yeah.
But there's no understanding from our patients that, well, yes, I want to be there for you. I get that you're uncomfortable. I want to get you that fifth blanket. But also, I may have a sicker patient who needs my attention more than you do with your extra blanket. And it may sound silly to be like, an extra blanket is not that hard to just give. But when I have a patient who's
trying to
sick,
die,
we're trying to keep them from dying.
Right.
Taking my time then and go to the blanket warmer to get you a warm blanket just adds extra fatigue onto my shift, because my purpose is to save you and be there for you when you're sick, when you have something go on. Exactly. To make sure you don't die.
To make sure I don't always tell people this, but I always think it in my head. Yeah, the closer you are to meeting Jesus, the faster you get seen. So it's probably a good thing that you're not getting pulled back immediately.
Yes.
It's probably a good thing that, you do have to wait for that warm blanket or your medication, because in another room, there is somebody else who is a lot closer to death than you are. And I think that's one of the things is, people have lost, this is kind of ironic, but people have lost compassion towards other people while we are giving extra compassion to people who need to have a little more understanding, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some warning signs though? Like that you are burnt out. Like what it was something that you were, because you sent me a text. You're like, you said the compassion fatigue is real tonight. So what was something that you found that you knew you were reaching that point? Because there's always a breaking point. There's always the point where you're like, whoa.
I had a patient who came in and was sick, and I was wanting to be there to help, and I was trying to explain things the best to the family and everything. And it was like just a click in my head or a constant thought where I'm like, all right, take a deep breath. You got to explain this again and explain it in people terms, not in doctor terms. And it just drained me to think of having to do it for the third time, which I'm happy to do. If doctors come in and say things and half the time they don't speak real people. And as a nurse, I'm great at speaking real people. I'm not so great at speaking medical, which has been a real interesting switch on.
To have to talk medical.
Yes, to have to talk medical for all the master stuff, and then to go back and have to talk real people to patients. But and I'm there to explain it to you because they come in, they say all this medical stuff. I'm there to explain it to you. And, second, third time, 4 times, especially in a critical patient, it may not always click in the family's head and whatnot.
Right.
That's my job. I'm there for you. If you want to be a hug person, 90% of the time, I will be your hug person. If you
Unless you
need
have bed bugs.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to come up to hug you, but if you want a hug and, your loved one is super sick and dying, or you're just so overwhelmed with, we talk about provider or not companion fatigue. Like if you're just so overwhelmed with constantly taking care of your loved one and then they're sick and you're like, what did I do wrong? Or what could I have done better? And all this. And you're like, can I give you a hug? I'll give you a hug.
You're a better person than me.
Well, because
I'm
I
like,
am.
no, please don't touch me.
I'm the better
Please
person.
don't.
I want that noted everywhere. It is
Better
on
person than
recording.
me. It's going to be on the internet, so it's not removable.
perfect.
I'll admit it. Please don't hug me. Please don't. But no, I think
Then it comes back to the Catholic and Christian upbringing of everyone shaking your hands at every service. Hey, how
God
are you?
bless.
How are you?
I mean, COVID for
Peace be with
bringing
you.
the fist bump and the elbow bump back. Okay. No, I think I can tell you right now that I am burnt out from the ER. 100% burnt out.
Yeah.
It's not, I am past the whole tired. I am past all that. I am 100% burnt out. And one of the biggest ways that I know that is because I am sick and tired of going to work. Again, every time I make that turn onto 50, I'm like,
if I could get away with not going to work and still get the paycheck, I would obviously choose that.
I would happily do that.
Yes.
But no, I'm not going to lie. I am 100% burnt out, and I find myself getting really irritable at work, which is really weird because people say I've been a lot nicer.
Oh, that's funny because
In the
people have been
last year.
saying that I've been less nice and less bubbly. And I think it's because I have that compassion fatigue going on, where when I'm around my coworker, like I'm giving so much energy to my patients that when I'm around most of my coworkers, I'm not the normal happily bubbly, like
Nobody
extra.
got time
I don't
for
want to
that.
be like, I don't feel like I should have to be extra
Yeah.
towards like I'm not being rude. Well, maybe sometimes, but it's usually towards the
Sometimes they
friends.
have it coming, okay? I'm just
Usually it's
saying.
towards like you or Aaron.
That's
And
fair.
you guys know, like
It's
you
fair.
know. But I think that's where that comes from. I'm giving so much energy and compassion and emotional to everybody else
that you just don't have any to spare.
I don't have any to give to you.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to help. I'm just kidding. And so I bring you onto this instead.
Exactly.
Okay, so what?
Also, but you brought me these popping boba drink. That's really
I'm
good.
telling you, and jerky. We don't have
jerky.
$80 worth of snacks today. We just have. How much did we spend, Mace? $20. 22.
22.
Excuse me. We spent $22.
The small
on
human.
The tiny human's here today.
He's whispering, so he isn't on the microphone.
I know. For someone who's not shy, he's like, no, I don't want to.
shy today.
I know.
We'll get him on here. Don't you worry, Mace.
Okay, so what is something that would actually help with compassion fatigue? Or is there anything that can actually help?
I mean, I think, trying to reduce those other stressors that are kind of add to increasing compassion fatigue. Like,
You mean like unsafe patient ratios?
yes, or if I
Short
have,
staffing?
right? If I have a critical patient that I'm trying to do everything I have to save them, because ultimately that's a lot of my job is I'm trying. Well,
It's emergency medicine.
It's emergency.
emergencies. Life-threatening
most of my job is
emergencies,
not
guys.
actually emergencies.
Correct.
But when I do have those patients, knowing that my other teammates are taking care of my other patients,
Right.
are able to help, are giving the medicine, so that when I get my one that is super sick and I'm doing this neurosepsis STEMI workup, all of the above.
Neurosepsis stuff. We're the pros at those, man.
Yeah, so when I'm doing all of these workups and actively doing the things to save, I don't have to worry about the
Right.
patient who is having a cardiac event, but not a serious one. Like, that sounds bad.
No, but there are different levels. I think that's
Yeah,
one
I
thing
mean,
that,
there's
like,
yes, one person's heart is actually stopped, and one person's heart is just angry. Like, I want to make
That's a
sure
good
that
way to put it.
my patient heart who's angry is being taken care of too. I'm
well,
not
you're trying to
taking
restart the other one.
yeah, I'm not taking my attention from the family who's in a crisis emergency.
So so here's what I want to do, because a lot of people don't know how our hospital or how our ER works. So when she's talking about other staff members helping in with, her patients while she's taking care of a critical, our nursing ratio is we have 5 patients to 1 nurse. It's a smaller ER. It is a 15-bed ER, and we have, on a good day, a tech. Now,
Sometimes a paramedic.
sometimes a paramedic. The techs are not, I know some nurses are used to the techs being able to do the Foleys and the IVs and do all that. Our techs cannot. Our techs are basically bathroom buddies who can do straight sticks. And let's be real, if you're in an ER, you're not getting a straight stick. You're getting an IV. So they can't do that. So not only that, we do not have secretaries. And we do not have a triage nurse. We do what's called direct bedding. So when we go out to the lobby to call the patients, which the nurses have to do, we have to then bring the patient to a room. We actually have to recept them into the computer as a patient and then triage them and then do the workup for 5 different patients. So when we have a patient who is very sick, we have a total of, at the most, at our peak time at 3 p.m., 5 nurses. That's it.
And one of them is our charge nurse,
And one of them's the charge nurse. Yes.
which helps keep the unit running and helps answer the phones. And
Yes.
Bobo does all the administrative side of stuff that we don't want to deal with either.
Yes. God bless him for that. That's why I hate being charged. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I am not the person you want.
Well, that's because you're a black cloud. Stuff
too.
always goes down when
Hey.
either of us are charged. Stuff always goes down.
But you know what? That's
like
when I
planes
learned
crashing,
planes
or
and helicopters crashing. And then
randomly landing on a small.
on the side of the road. Oh my
Side
God,
of
I forgot
the
about that. I
road.
was so glad I didn't have to work that day because I take that road to get to work. I'd be like, can you imagine me calling Tommy and be like, sorry, I can't come in today. There's a plane blocking
There's
my
a plane blocking the
blocking
road.
traffic. I forgot about that.
Don't worry, I'm here to remind you of these things.
Oh my gosh, that was a great day. I did think that. I was like, dang, too bad I don't have to work. So yeah, okay, sorry. There were the squirrels again. They were off. They were all on their own. So yeah, so that is basically what our ER, how our ER functions. So yeah, sometimes the overstimulation of all of it
Yeah.
is also there. Granted, it's an ER. We're going to get busy. I get that. However, the lack of the ancillary staff, I think, has a lot to do with that too. Because like I said, we don't have the tech. We don't have a secretary to answer the phone. The doctors don't even have a secretary to answer the phone.
Doctors don't even have a scribe half the time to help them keep all of the stuff going on.
So if we have a sick patient who needs to transfer out to a hospital with a higher level of care, they have a consult going out, they don't have a secretary to answer the phone. We have to answer our phone and their phone.
I would say, and the doctor's phone. So we're answering all the phones that are constantly ringing, especially if it's busy. We have the pharmacies calling us to ask about prescriptions or say, hey, insurance isn't covering this one. And I'm like,
My favorite is when they call, this patient wants a refill. For the record, we don't do refills in the ER, okay? There's a reason why we tell you to follow up with your primary care within the next 2 to 3 days or your specialist. And sometimes if you tell them you were seen in the ER, they do get you in a little faster because they know they probably started new meds.
yeah,
Fun fact.
true. But like that, and then, or at our hospital, our main telephone number always just seems to end up, all the calls for that end up going to the ER.
Because the operator doesn't know what they're doing. They just say,
I
I
think
was
they
seen
just
in the
don't-
ER. Here, let me transfer you. Click.
Or they say, I was just discharged, so everything always goes. I think it's just a lack of understanding understanding. I don't think it's that they don't know. I think it's a lack of understanding the different moving parts of the hospital.
There's a couple who don't know. There's a couple who just don't.
I'm trying to be nice, okay?
I am being
I'm
nice.
trying to be compassionate here.
This is why you have compassion fatigue, Kayla.
I'll
You're
just
trying
start
to be
being
nice
meaner.
outside of work. I think that's the problem with me, though, is I'm honest, and people are like, whoa,
Well, I get
that was
when-
bitchy. Well, it was the truth. She's like, oh, God, here we go. But
Well,
yeah, so
I
we do
mean-
have to do, and then the lab calls, and then they have to take a critical value, and then you have to find the doctor to tell them about the critical value. It's
and then
just-
heaven forbid, during all of this, Steph's patient is having a STEMI, and we have to
Okay.
find the doctor and hunt him down when my patient is trying not to, or trying to code, and I'm trying to prevent it, and then Steph's patient decides to.
Hey, that happened one shift, okay?
Clearly, I'm
literally-
still traumatized by
We
this.
literally had 3 patients trying to DC to JC that day, okay, at the same time. But there was one day, though, I remember, and it wasn't that day. I literally had, I was in the cubby. I had, which means, so that particular zone actually includes our crash bed. So I had 5 ICU patients at the same time.
Which, if you're up in the ICU and you're an ICU nurse, the max ICU patients you will get is 2.
Yeah. So I had 5 ICU patients. My most stable patient was a patient who was actively seizing, who had metastatic brain cancer. I had another patient who came in,
And that's
with-
your most stable.
That's my most stable one. Okay. I had another one who
At least
had
4 of the rooms are. You could just open the doors and stand in the middle and run between all of them.
Yeah. Well, I also had a ROSC in 15.
They
the
already
same
back. They're fine.
I was chasing that person's pressures like no other. I had him on 4 different pressors.
Okay, so they were also trying to DC to JC, which
I
I
had
feel
another
like you
one
need
who
to
was
tell
having-
that people
yes.
what the DC to
So
JC.
DC to JC is discharge to Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm so sorry. So they were trying to self-discharge. That sounded bad.
Self-discharge.
As soon as I said it, I was like, "That's not okay."
You know
But
what?
yeah, so like I had 5 ICU patients, and the most an ICU nurse will ever have is 2. If they are extremely critical, sometimes they actually have 1 with 2 nurses. I know when I worked at Fairfax, every now and then we would get a few of those. But that's one of the other things. Like you have all of that going on, and that was the first shift of 3 in a row.
Yeah,
I
and
was-
when that's your first, like when that's your ending shift, you're like,
It's
what?
different, whatever.
I get the next day off. I get what? When that's your
That's my
first
first one.
shift, and then you're like, what is tomorrow going to bring? And then you have
It brought
3
more.
of those.
It brought
more.
At that point, I was wishing the meteor would hit us like the dinosaurs. I was like, just bring it.
I do also want to just point out that one of the coping tech tools that are talked about a lot in
Dark humor and sarcasm.
yes, dark humor is one of our coping tools that we use to get through our shifts and get through our life and help process all of the just death and destruction and terrible things that we see.
Right.
Apparently, it's according to this, it's also a warning sign.
Oh, God.
So, I'm not sure.
You guys have all been warned, okay?
We are
Wait,
the
is there a warning
queens
sign for us or
of
for the
dark
general
humor.
population?
We are
I'm
the
sorry.
queens of dark humor. We
We
should
are.
get little crowns made.
I have some.
Like Glenda crowns or like
Oh, yeah, like full on. From my pageant days.
just write dark humor queen on it.
I put a piece of duct tape there with a Sharpie written on it.
Perfect.
That's great. That's great. So yeah, but then at the same time, like with that, because of the dark humor, there aren't a whole lot of people in the outside world that
Outside world doesn't like
that
us.
doesn't like us. So then like
They don't
when
understand
yeah, that's
where
what it
that
is.
sarcasm
So a lot of
comes
times,
from.
like one of the other things they were saying is go out with your friends. I'm like, well, my friends are just as dark and twisted as I am. So
Well, and then half the time trying to like, okay, yes, go out with your friend. Okay, you work opposite shifts of me.
correct. This is
So-
the one day a week
One day a week
that we have off
can-
together that we can coordinate some things.
Yeah.
Well, she's not in Brazil or I'm not, somewhere around the country also. So it's fun.
Yeah.
So that's how nursing schedule
it's
works.
it's really hard to be like, oh yeah, let's just go out with my friend, or once I get off of work, I'll go to blah 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 and have.
We can't do that. We don't get off till midnight.
Yeah, I can't go have tacos after work because I get off at midnight.
That's because you don't like Anita's.
Yeah, I don't.
They're open
yeah,
24 hours on the weekend.
I know,
dude.
but I don't like Anita's.
Can we just go for Marg's?
Yes.
We'll sneak snacks.
100%.
We'll have, like, snacks in the car. We'll pregame it in the
I'll,
car.
I'll bring my own tacos into Anita's.
We're gonna pregame food in the car and then just go drink at
Just
the
go
bar.
drink. But after a shift, especially if I have to work tomorrow,
Oh,
there's
no.
it's hard to
I'm dead.
decompress
I'm
and
dead.
find a way to then like, okay, get that off of me and not have that like fatigue carry over into the next shift and
Yeah.
to the following shift.
I think
That's why I
that's-
don't like working 3 in a row.
I have to.
I know, and I've kind of made it that way also for you because of school
told
and
you I
clinicals.
I was
I'm
going
sorry.
to say, no, and it's fine because I know you have that stuff going on, but at the same time, I always kind of worked 3 in a row anyways, just because
It's easier for
it's
other
easier
jobs.
for, well, that
and
and,
tiny
the tiny
human.
human who's ignoring me
He
per
is.
the norm. That's fine, whatever. He's in his own little world.
I was kind of expecting a little face to be made at us. I don't even.
I don't even think he's paying attention to us.
Nope, he's not.
That's what you think. I'm going to hear about it later on.
That's true. He probably will.
So, back to the unsafe ratios, short staffing causes. We already said the freaking compassion fatigue causes
The
burnout.
constant trauma or exposure to all the trauma and
So then that takes us
sickness
to
and
like
illness.
mental health stuff and physical health because let's face it, if your mind is down in the dumps, your body's gonna take it. It's gonna take a toll on your body as well.
it's just rude. There's so much that is correlated with stress and anxiety and mental health that manifests physically that I think we should probably do a whole episode on because it is
Right.
crazy the amount of physical changes that can happen because of
Emotional.
just emotional health. Which is why everybody needs a therapist. I need a new therapist.
Any therapists out there? They want to take on.
I want to
clients?
take on some
I
crazy.
mean, I'm already in therapy, but like, I'm
Something.
open to.
I
switch
loved my
things up.
therapist, but she moved far away and she stopped taking insurance, so I can't do the drive and pay out of pocket.
Does she do televisits?
Probably, but I don't get a lot out of televisits.
I would get
COVID?
distracted.
Yeah, that was my problem. COVID, I just kept thinking about like all the other things around. I was like, oh, I should do this. And then I didn't feel like I got a lot out of the televisits.
You stress yourself out more.
Yeah,
That's
which
fair.
then defeats the whole purpose.
That's fair. But no, I think like you said, like the trauma. Hold on, my ear itches.
You got to do the 1 ear thing.
It's on this
Oh.
ear though. I gotta switch it up.
Okay.
I gotta switch it. But yeah, like the trauma causing mental health issues, which then turn to cause physical issues. Which is kind of weird because like I think a lot of times if you have that emotional issue that causes like a ton of illnesses, like the chronic illnesses, or you're just your immune system's weakened, so you're always sick. For as stressed as we always are at work and around all the sick people that we're around, we don't get sick a whole lot.
Not usually, no.
And when
Except
I do,
for this winter, I
he's the
feel
one
like
that gets me sick.
everybody, yeah,
You see, now
everybody
he
got
pays
sick
attention.
this winter. But yeah, and like in general, like we have pretty decent immune systems,
We're just stressed.
but we're just stressed all the time, and it's hard to find those like decompression times and ability to then go right back into it.
It's funny because one of the things I have here, it says, what nurses wish management understood. I'm kind of hoping our HR department watches this. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, we could start just randomly posting things around the hospital and be like, or slip it under their door.
Like the patient engagement surveys that just went out a couple weeks ago. Or not patient
not the
engagement,
patient,
the
the
employee
employee
engagement.
engagement.
We already care way too much about the patient engagement ones.
Yes.
Now-
Patient engagement is every shift. Every person who comes in gets a patient engagement survey.
We only get ours once a year. You can tell where their priorities
twice
are.
a year.
Oh, excuse me, twice a year. Again, you can tell where their priorities are. But yeah, I let loose on that one. Like, I'm glad it was anonymous because I'd probably get fired. Not that I would really care.
Yeah, I was very on it. Usually I'm a lot, I don't want to say nicer, but more PC on it. And I don't do any of it to be mean because I want better for the hospital. I want better for,
Right.
My coworkers and me. And you're leaving.
That's fair. I'm leaving,
But I do want better. And a lot of the things were like, how is the hospital doing? How can we improve? How can this? How
Rolled
can
my
that?
sleeves up and I went, all right, let's
Exactly.
get this going.
I mean, I went and I looked at it and I thought about the questions and then I closed the survey and then I went back after shift and I wrote novels on everything.
You aren't the only one.
Okay.
There were some people and I was like, what are you typing? They're like, my employee engagement survey. I was like, dude, that's a book.
I think
That was
my
a full
favorite
book.
question though was like, how likely do you think that your answers are going to impact the hospital? And I
They
was
won't.
like, strongly disagree.
Yep. Which is funny because so this is gonna sound kind of bad. I am actually on the employee engagement committee. I'm the chairperson for that.
What?
Yeah.
How did I not know this?
I got voluntold for
Oh.
it. Tommy went like this, here, sign this, and stupid me, I just signed it, and before I knew it,
yeah, no,
the
you
HR
can't ever-
director's calling me. So I have monthly meetings with the HR directors.
I thought my monthly meetings that I have for the shared governance that I somehow keep saying I'm leaving and I'm done, but every month I still show up for those meetings.
Well, here's what's funny is during those meetings, they're supposed to be very similar to the engagement survey, where we're supposed to be able to tell HR directly what is going on in the hospital and how can they improve. But they never actually
How's that
want
work?
the actual answers. You want to know how the last 3 meetings have gone? It went from, okay, what can we do to retain employees to,
Oh, well,
let's
that's
talk
something.
about what we want to do for hospital week.
Well, what they really should have done is sent out these employment engagement surveys after Nurses Week and Hospital Week, because people probably would have been in a little bit of a better mood. But
they sent them out.
they sent them out like 2 weeks beforehand.
You know when they sent them out? That's why. They sent them out the same time that we had that patient upstairs who like assaulted 5 different
the
people.
very violent one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when that survey got sent out. And I was like, that was the wrong time if you guys want positive feedback. Because we had several staff members assaulted and multiple quit because of that one patient.
And that comes back to, what could you as a nurse or staff member have done to not had your ass kicked? Well, get us the support that we needed and we've asked for multiple times, whether it be more staffing, more security.
Security guards that will actually do
security
something.
guards that can actually do something. Security guards that show up and aren't watching their phones or have their earplugs in
or sleeping.
AirPods in.
There's been one that napping at least every time I turn around.
Pretty sure he was let go.
I don't think so.
Okay, maybe not.
Maybe there's multiple.
Maybe he only
because I
works on
just
your
saw-
day.
Probably, knowing my luck. I think there are like 3 that I feel comfortable with them working there, and I feel like if anything were to happen, they would step in and help kick ass.
I'm slowly adding a 4th to that list.
We're gonna have to discuss
We'll
that
see.
off air. See who that
slowly
is.
adding a 4th.
All right. So
But-
what are some?
But again, like, we don't feel like, and then everything is all, we want to retain. Okay, well, if you want to retain me, let's pay me a fair wage. I'm making less than a lot of the other new grad nurses who have less experience or less, like even before I got my master's, less. Ooh, I hit my mic. I'm getting riled up here.
Where did you go?
I shouldn't have to fight so hard to get a raise to be equal to what these new grads are who have no experience, who don't have a bachelor's, who don't have anything come in. And I have to fight you really hard. My boss has to fight for me also
Thank you, Tommy.
to get a raise. Thank you, Tommy.
I think one thing that they should do is say like the new grad pay, because typically new grads come in and they get like a base pay. Typically, I think every time they raise that, they should raise every other employee's that same amount of dollar.
Yeah, or like, I should have had to find out at the Christmas party that I am the least paid person with the most, one of the most experiences.
Are you really?
Yeah. Well, especially before I got a little bit of a pay raise. Yeah. So, like, you want to talk about retention? The only reason I didn't immediately leave was because I was still in school. 100%. especially when Tommy had to fight so hard with HR to get me up.
To get you a pay
Thank
raise
you.
of any kind. Thank you, Tommy. I know a couple of the nurses who are there because this particular hospital actually will pay for, or I guess they own a few nursing schools or something
Yeah.
like that. So as long as you go through like a bachelor's program through them, they will actually cover it. But I know a few of the nurses there who are only there because of the fact that their tuition is still being paid because their bachelor's is essentially free.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't do that for masters.
Really?
No. They did have a tuition discount with certain colleges.
I wonder if it's
But it
because they're
wasn't
trying to
that
get
much.
like magnet status or something, so they need the bachelor's.
The
They don't
bachelor's,
need
yeah.
the master's.
Well, and that's, I mean, as FNP, they don't even hire. It's not they aren't the hiring ones. Unless I become a hospitalist. I think they are.
Ooh, don't do that.
No, I couldn't.
I love my hospitalist. Well, one of them, a couple of them, but don't do that.
No, I couldn't. But yeah, pay us right, pay us fair. Don't blame me for all of the.
So we can, go
Every
on
little thing.
vacations and actually get away from, so we don't get burnt out. But what do I know?
Right.
All right,
Maybe more than a pizza party. Actually, I will say I am a sucker for some.
I was gonna say we bitch and complain about it, but you know what? You put slices of pepperoni pizza in front of me, I'll eat them.
No one's turning them down.
Nope. I will eat them.
Though I think the only time I eat pizza though is
It's the only time I eat it is at work.
at work.
Or when Mason wants it. Okay,
Are
so
you
I
saying I
love.
need a tiny human?
Huh?
I need a tiny human to
Whoa, no,
be
just
able
borrow
to
mine.
eat.
Just borrow mine.
Okay, perfect.
We can share.
Okay.
I like how on this one right here it says small wins and it says delegation tips. I don't have anybody to delegate to at work.
Yeah.
So
And then there's lots of times I ask my quote unquote float nurse to help do XYZ while I'm doing ABC.
I'm going to go let him in. I'll be right back.
Okay. And I get met with sass or, any sort of attitude about it. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the point of having a float nurse if I can't? If I can't delegate. So you can't delegate. Dark humor, can't delegate. I text.
I can delegate dark humor.
I text my people, even if they're working, I'll text them. Even if I'm
yeah.
working with them. I texted
Text
Aaron
them.
multiple times last night and was like, hey, what's up? Here's a random meme that I hope you're gonna get.
I think
It was
the
about
memes
milkshakes.
is bring all the idiots to your yard.
Yes.
Because I saw that one.
Yeah, I sent it to you too. That's right.
I was like, was that the one?
Yes. Because we had a discussion about
I love me a good meme.
we're gonna oh yeah.
I love me a good
I mean,
meme.
I feel like that's just a
That's how we
primary form
communicate.
of communication, yeah.
What was it? A friend of mine sent me one. Something about dating in 2025. I'm just going to send a bunch of memes out and hope for the best.
Yeah. That should be we should have a dating app. You can only communicate in
Via
memes.
memes. I
and
mean, you get to
see
learn a lot
who-
about people that way. Okay,
Who I click with.
I learned some people. I was like, look, if I can push the humor to that level,
Yeah.
we're good.
Like, okay, we probably can hang out.
Right? Isn't that bad, though, that that's how we determine whether or not it's safe for them to hang out with us?
Well, especially if we get to a certain point where they start meeting the friends. Like,
Which takes us back to people like dating and, talking to friends and stuff outside of healthcare. Dating is like, you can only really date people in healthcare because they're the only ones who actually get it.
yeah, who understand my dark
Tolerate the
humor.
I don't know. The tiny human over there is pretty good at it too,
Yeah, but he
so
was
to
raised
say.
by you.
That's
so.
fair. He was raised by nothing but doctors, paramedics, and nurses. So
Yeah. So he's pretty, he dishes it out as good as he takes it.
he does. Oh my God, that poor guy. I feel sorry. I apologize now for his future significant other,
Wherever he is. Future.
wherever they may be. All right, let's see here. What else? There was another thing. Oh, boundaries and communication strategies.
What boundaries?
I was just gonna say we're supposed to have boundaries.
I mean, we had a whole podcast about discussing periods and everything. So clearly we don't have any boundaries.
field, dude.
Oh.
Not personal lives.
I mean,
I tried to set boundaries, and they're like, "Okay, that's nice.
yeah.
That's nice. Here you go. Moving on."
Yeah. Boundaries don't actually. It's great in theory.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We try.
Yeah, just like a lot of these are like, okay, let's talk about safe ratios. Okay, well, we don't live in California.
Hey,
But they have like mandated safety ratios.
I know, isn't it glorious?
And we don't.
And they get
So-
higher pay. You know, I seriously thought about like getting hired full time over there and doing 6 on, 8 off, because I could easily like double my salary. And
Yeah, but 6 on sounds terrible.
it's actually not bad. I used to do that before when a certain night doctor,
Yeah.
even when I worked at Fairfax. Oh, I just
Yeah,
gave
I'm-
that away.
I feel like
I could do 6 on,
I'm getting
8
too
off.
old for. I'm getting too fatigued for that.
I'm just burnt out. I can't do it anymore.
I'm just tired. I mean, and all of this, like, again, I want to be there for you. I want to help. I want to help you in your emergency. I want to help, even if it's not my technical definition of an emergency. But, like, okay, you're having chest pain. I would rather you come in,
that's one of those.
or
where-
you're having shortness of breath, or, oh, you feel really dizzy and you can't walk straight. I would rather you come in and be like, this may be dumb, and maybe
you're
I'll.
supposed to go to the
whatever.
ER for that. I just go to work.
Well, you work in the ER, so I'm not talking about your migraines because
No, my vertigo, dude. That kicked in real good one of my last shifts. And I couldn't really see straight.
you should have texted me. I would have
No, it's fine.
brought you your anti-vertigo meds
So I could
Or
sleep
my
for 3 days.
or my anti-vertigo med.
Or Meclizine.
Um,
Can't take that. I
but
will.
yeah,
I'll sleep
I'd
for 3 days.
rather, yeah, me too.
But yeah,
I'd
I'd rather
be
have them
there,
come in
and
for
I'd rather
that.
you come in. But when I want you there for those. Don't wait a month. I want you to come in, get you checked out. But on the flip side, if you have an appointment tomorrow and you've already done all of these other things, and
forget the dang appointment. That's all I
you
ask.
we have already made sure that it's not an emergency situation and that nothing else is going on, nothing has changed, I don't know what you expect me to do.
Fix it.
I can't fix it.
Fix it now.
I would love to be able to magically fix it. However, I am just an emergency room nurse and here to make sure
I just
you
work
don't
here.
die.
That's all I do. I just work here.
I just work here. I just listen to what the doctors tell me to do.
Okay, so let's talk about some things that actually help nurses recharge. I
For
did air
those who are
quotes
just
because-
listening, she air quoted the
Air quote.
recharge.
I was like, air quote. No, now that I figured out that you can just post the video and they can click the option to listen later, I'm just going to do that from now on. So
Okay, but what if somebody doesn't want to look at our ugly faces?
That's
Because
valid
I
point.
didn't put on any makeup today.
I never put makeup on.
I also didn't do my hair.
Neither did I.
Okay, oh, stop. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just not as pretty as you.
No,
Maybe
oh,
they
shut
don't
up. That is
wanna-
not what I was saying. Oh my god.
Maybe they don't want to look at our faces. So
That's fair. I get tired of looking at mine sometimes too when I
Right?
do these things because I'm just sitting here
Just sitting here
I'm like,
staring
oh
at
my
us.
god. If you
Um,
see me like randomly scratching at something, it's because I can see myself. So I'm just like, oh, that's bothering me. All right, back to
Things
what
that
things
actually
that recharge nurses. Pizza parties don't count. I mean, it
No.
will work for like a good 20 seconds because I'm not hangry anymore. But
I think you're getting about a good hour on the not hangry. But then the greasy aspect of it kicks in, and you're
oh
like,
god, you're like, I shouldn't have eaten that.
yeah.
It's like, ugh, you get really full.
I mean,
And then God forbid you have to do CPR after that.
oh yeah.
I did that once.
Yeah. I remember the day we did CPR and I hadn't eaten in 10 hours because
Your
we hadn't
blood
gotten a
sugar
break.
tanked.
My sugar tanked and we were the only ones doing compressions. I had to be like, Steph, I'm going down.
Oh, that's when we had to go up to ICU,
Yes.
huh? Oh my
I
god.
was like-
I remember that.
that was
Oh my god.
interesting times. Don't ever
That
try to
was-
do CPR with falling blood sugar.
The falling blood sugar with people who didn't know how to
They
give epi.
were still learning. It's okay. We all had to start somewhere.
I know, but
That's why we respond to these things also.
I only respond to those things because there's only 2 nurses up there.
Because they only have 2 patients each.
Unless they're PCU patients.
Okay. All right.
'Cause
That's
it's
a whole different
split.
story.
Yeah. So if you don't know, our ICU is ICU PCU. So if they're PCU patients, they can take up to, is it 3?
I feel like it's more than that.
Is it 3 or 4?
I don't
It's
know.
got to be 4 because at Fairfax it was 3.
I don't
And so we always got to one up them.
Naturally, because that's the flex. Our
give you
PCU
more
nurses can
patients.
take one more patient, whether they should or not.
That's a different story. Also, the mouse right there in the middle is like, I keep
Well,
staring at it.
For a while, the mouse was over my face.
I'm sorry.
So, I got my emotional support pin back.
I see that. Oh, did you learn how to twirl it?
I was getting better at it.
Were you
I've been
watching
practicing.
him? Were you stalking him? Is that why?
No, I was in the back, so I didn't get to. That sounds bad. Stalk him. Watch how he twirls his pen.
Oh my god.
I certainly hope he never watches these videos. And it's like,
even if we don't say his name, he knows exactly who he is.
these people. He already thinks we're crazy. So
I mean, we are, but I've already scared one of the new docs off. I think I've only seen him that one time I worked with him.
oh yeah.
He's been there several times since, but
He
never on my
probably
shift.
just the shift changes when he sees your name is on there. He's like, nope, that's Steph,
Nope.
girl.
Nope.
Gotta
Well,
find him.
had he listened to me to
Swap
begin with, I
around.
wouldn't have had a. Never mind.
We have a loving relationship with our doctors.
We really do.
We are a collaborative team. Sometimes some of them need a little extra collaborating.
In direction, but that's a
and
different story.
advice on things that we're seeing that they may not be seeing because we're spending more time with the patient.
It causes compassion fatigue and burnout.
Which is, yes.
All right. Oh, wait. So we were supposed to be talking about things that actually help nurses recharge.
Well, you know what's going to help me recharge?
A
A vacation.
Okay. Let's Brazil.
I would love to be able to take a vacation every couple weeks,
So
but
would
that's
I.
not going to work.
No.
Can we move closer to the beach, though? If we all move closer to the beach, we can still do everything and be at the beach.
But it still requires.
And that
us
would be
to
my
work.
happy place.
I mean, it'd be my happy place too, and I can do my work from just about anywhere. So
Yeah, so let's move to the beach.
pack your things, kid. We're moving to the beach.
Oh,
No.
he's shaking his head
He's-
no. That's rude.
Why? Since when don't you want to live at the beach?
You could be a beach bum.
That's me.
We can all be beach
You're
bums.
already a beach bum. All right, let's see here. What else?
Yes,
I
yep.
I know a good.
I mean, you
massage.
can't just. Oh, see, I've never had a massage.
Oh yeah, like I get a lot of like tension up in my shoulders.
Oh
and
yeah,
my
me
neck.
too. Especially I'm sitting. See me sitting here like
my God.
this.
I have to remember that good dance posture that I had.
I feel like my
That's why I
shoulder.
still have it.
Am I uneven?
No, these chairs are wonky because God knows what they were doing on them the other
It's a
day.
whole different story. Thank God you disinfected them.
I had to disinfect everything. It was disgusting. I don't know what these music video people do while they're here, but that's just not my problem. I mean, it is when I have to clean, but different
Yeah.
story. Okay.
But there's only so much vacations you can take.
Right.
You can afford.
Right.
Or time you can be away, or days you can take
PTO.
off, or tequila you can drink. So that's not a healthy coping mechanism.
I'm feeling attacked.
Okay, but how often do we tell our patients drinking alcohol is not a healthy coping mechanism?
Do as I say, not as I do. It's a different story.
You leave me wordless.
You're welcome.
I like this. Pursue your side passions, like photography.
I'm feeling personally attacked again.
Well, she's the photographer. I get to be
What
the
did you get?
behind the. No, I got
Oh, I thought you got one. A
blanket
different one.
side passions, but I get to be the behind the scenes person. That's
She's taking pictures of the whole set. It's great.
That's my job.
All right, let's see. Ooh, are we selfieing? Oh, I thought we were
No.
selfieing.
We can selfie later.
That's fair. Okay, we gotta get ready to wrap this up here. Let's see here. So
I will say though, I did have a patient come in yesterday, and it was just one of those days that's just you check your watch and you're like, all right, how has it only been 2 hours? And then you check your watch 4 hours later, and then you're like, how has it only been 15 minutes from the last time I checked my watch?
right.
It was one of those days, but I did have a patient come in, and he actually requested me by name in the lobby. Was like, is Kayla working? And
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
I don't know. I was
I'd
a
be
little
terrified when people
um,
specifically request me
right.
because it's normally a frequent flyer that.
right. But one of the other people had gone out to get him, and it was because he remembered my name because he has like a chronic issue that he needed help with, and it's a legit thing. Like he couldn't have waited to get into the doctor.
That sucks.
And ironically, he was supposed to be calling the doctor to get an appointment for this issue, but it just like emergency happened. But he came in, he remembered me because apparently I had given him such great compassion and care. And he's like, you
said you were a very compassionate
he did. He did. He was like, I have never felt more understood and compassion towards my situation than I did with you. And I was like, oh, well, I appreciate it. I'm glad that all my compassion that I'm giving is being noticed. Because sometimes I think, you don't ever get to see that side of it or like hear
Yeah.
the feedback of that.
No, we
So
always
that
get
kind
the
of
negative things.
bumped me up a little bit for
So if
a
you're
couple
patients,
hours.
please say good things about the nurses because we're tired of getting yelled at.
Yeah, that's all
Not
we
gonna
hear.
lie.
We just get yelled at all the time.
Yeah. Which also, like, why would people do that? Like, do I go to their place of employment and yell at them?
I don't know. Why do people go to retail stores and yell at the poor cashier for the price ringing up wrong? They didn't put the price in. They're just scanning the barcode. I mean, you can tell them, be like, hey, this was labeled as blah, blah, blah. You don't have to be rude to them.
That would, again, understanding and compassion that they don't have. All right, do we have any words of encouragement for fellow nurses? Mine would be don't do it, but
We can't tell people not. We can't tell.
not to be
We can't
nurses.
tell
Go
people not to be
finish school.
nurses.
Finish nursing school. Be the best nurse that you can be.
I think,
Invest in tequila.
no, I think definitely like remembering to take more time for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
self-care has only recently become a thing people actually talk about and mention. And that's something I don't do a lot of or haven't been doing a lot of.
Yeah.
Mostly because I think different things cause people to like or to do your self-care. And I haven't figured out what's mine
Tequila.
besides tequila.
Oh, got it.
We're going to also need a tequila sponsor.
Casamigos. I'm just saying. You're my favorite.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Besides for the negative, Stephanie,
Okay, so then let me
what
ask
would
you
be
this.
your
Can you
words of encouragement
Oh,
to fellow nurses?
I was moving on because I didn't want to get to that part. But
Besides,
take your days off, even if it's like you have PTO for a reason. Okay,
Yeah.
use it. Don't bank it up. Take your days off. You can't be replaced at home. You
Yeah.
can very easily be replaced at work.
very quickly,
very
before you're
quickly.
even in the ground or
Right.
whatever
Before your
you
body's
chose to
even
do.
cold.
Yeah.
But
They will have your posting up before you're even at the funeral home.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's sad. I've actually seen that.
However, your family and your friends who truly love you will hurts. There will possibly never be another soccer game for your tiny human who,
I know. And that's the thing. Like, that's.
or there will be lots of soccer games that we'll all go to all the time. He's giving me an evil look. I need to like come over here so I can't see him.
No,
But
yeah,
like,
take your days off. You guys aren't replaceable at home, but you are at work. I guess one of the biggest things is,
I'm gonna start
Don't-
making faces.
like the ones of me going around now. But don't take your days off. Don't feel pressured into doing things that you're not comfortable with at work.
Or at home,
or
and,
at home.
and life in general.
Well, yeah, but we're talking work specific here. Find your people.
Yes.
Find your people. Like, it's funny because we always joke around about how we know everything about all of our coworkers and their personal lives. But do we actually hang out with them outside of work? No, probably not. Because we're all sleeping the next 4 days after our 3 days. But find your people and hold on
Start
to
a
them.
podcast with
Start
them.
a podcast. Jeez, things that we do.
Yeah. No, definitely find your people and the people who recharge you and
Yeah.
recharge your emotional and just general well-being.
So then, last question. Is it possible to love nursing and still feel frustrated and burnt out?
Yes. Because I will 100% tell you, I want to be there for you. I will be there for you. Am I exhausted? Yes. Are you burnt out? Yes. But if somebody comes in cardiac arrest and it's a 58-year-old and
Todd will tell you, we had that happen it was a couple weeks ago. One of the patients went into cardiac arrest, and he goes, I never see Stephanie move so fast as I do to see her get up off that chair and go run to that room.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's the only time I do cardio, I'm not going to lie.
So yeah, but in that moment, you knew what to do. You felt comfortable. You were
Right.
happy to do that. You were happy to be there to
Right.
help that
Oh,
person, or if
100%.
we weren't able to help that person, to help that family.
Yeah.
And
I think-
there's a lot of time CPR, especially if they come in from the field, unknown downtime. It's not so much about then saving that person. It's about helping that family.
Yeah.
And 100%, I would be there all the time for that.
Yeah.
Do I necessarily want to be there because you've coughed once and decided the emergency room is the place to go because one cough
Because you coughed with it.
and you're a normal, healthy person?
You know, I legit had a patient come in for that a few
I
weeks
know.
ago.
I was there.
They coughed.
They
How many
coughed.
times you coughed? Just once.
Just once.
Do you have a fever? No.
And a normal, healthy person. Now, if you're like immunocompromised, that's a whole different story. But
Again, different story.
100%, yes, you can love healthcare, love what you do, and still be frustrated with it.
I would love to go back to hospice.
Yeah, but you're allergic to flowers.
I'm allergic to life some days.
To-
Who
to
was
the-
it? Judo one time looks at me, one of the docs that we work with, and I said something about non-compatible with life, and he's like, Steph, you're non-compatible with life. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's fair.
100%. You would
I know,
would
but
die.
I loved it so much, and people think that it's like all sad, and it's not. It is. You don't get compassion fatigue because I think mostly it's because you're giving that compassion to people who legitimately need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should change. I'm going to change right now. Start applying for jobs. Bye, Tommy.
Oh, it wasn't me. I didn't tell her to do that. Okay. She did it all on her own that time.
This time it was not Stephanie's influence at all. No.
See? See?
Mhm.
See? All right. So you can love your job, I suppose, and still be burnt out. I guess not necessarily love your job, but love the field in general. Because just because you're a nurse doesn't mean you have to work bedside.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I met a couple nurses actually when we transferred over, like EMRs, or EHRs, or whatever the heck you want to call them nowadays. Some of the tech people that were there were actually nurses.
Yeah. The
That's
ones
why
that
I was
were
like,
clinical were the ones that were most helpful.
Yeah, right.
Because they knew.
Because they knew
what to do.
from a nursing standpoint, and some of them took that position as like a contract, and then they still did bedside nursing like as a PRN thing. I was like,
I think because we've been hospital so long that we also forget there is nursing outside of the
bedside.
hospital.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean,
All
that's what's great about nursing is there is all these different options. Does that say a horn sound effect? A DJ air horn?
Yeah, watch. Hold on, let me see.
Oh, I'm sorry, people. This is not making any noise. That's rude.
Why isn't it doing it?
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
laugh if it does it in the
Does
video,
it
though.
on the video.
Now I'm curious. Oh, sound effects are muted. That's why.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. We don't need to add sound effects. Or we do.
Okay.
So maybe one thing to cure your compassion fatigue is find random sound effects on
The
Stephanie's
squirrels are loose
computer.
again, y'all. The squirrels are loose again. All right. And on that
Oh
note,
my
we will see you on the next episode. I don't know. What do you think we should talk about next?
I don't know, but if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments.
Or
Let us
if you are
know.
nursing, if you are a nurse, comment in there to see what you do to.
Yeah, give
Are
us
you
some
burnt
tips.
out, or what do you do to not feel that way anymore?
Yeah.
Just an idea.
Just let us know and hit the follow button.
I don't
And
know
join
where
us
it
next
is.
time.
I don't know where it is, so I'm not going to point anymore.
We just start pointing in all corners, aspects.
It's over there. It's over there.
Click the follow, click the like, click the subscribe. See us next time.
Cat doodles.
Bye.